everybody. My name is Yelena Crawford. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If we've never met before, I do weekly astrology forecasts on all of the transiting planets and the energies that are coming into all of our lives, as well as educational content too. So if you're interested in anything like that, make sure to tap that subscribe button. And if you benefit from this video at all, please tap the like button and leave us a comment below. I would love to hear from you guys. Always love to hear from your experiences and if you resonate with all the information that's being provided. So just a couple things before we begin. This is going to be a little bit of an extended forecast. I'm just going to do a 10-day time period for this one from Monday, October 4th, all the way through Thursday of October 14th. We've got a lot of content to kind of pack in to that time period. And then just a couple things before we begin. Thank you so much for your patience with all of this. I have started mailing out what I like to call my cosmic guide for the month ahead, which is a monthly written astrology forecast that's sent to all my email subscribers. So if you are somebody who would like to subscribe to my email list, you can go to my website, yelenacrawford.com. There should be a pop-up when you first arrive, and you can go ahead and subscribe right from there. A link to my website is also in the description box below. I also have a couple freebies for you guys if you're interested. I have a free guided meditation specifically for the new moon. And I also have a set of journal entry prompts that you can plug right into your journal, and it's for every phase of the moon. So it's really good to start right at the new moon. So I thought, good time to plug these two things, and you can find them by visiting my website, but the link to the freebies is also in the description box below. Another place you can find my content is on Instagram. I like to create videos and all kinds of graphics for you guys, informing you about the incoming astrology as well as other things. So I would really appreciate if you would give me a follow over there. And finally, for the housekeeping, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the personal astrology that's affecting you right now, this forecast that I give is only a general forecast. So it may not resonate completely because all of our personal natal charts are being activated in different ways at different times. And the only way of figuring that out is through a personal reading. So if you resonate with me and you like my style, I have all the information in the description below as well on how to book a personal reading with me. If you have any questions surrounding that, feel free to email me at any time at info@yelenacrawford.com. And thank you guys so very much. Let's go ahead and get into the content. So I do use the whole sign house system and tropical Western astrology, a mix of modern psychological and traditional predictive Hellenistic techniques. So I'm really excited. I've got a nice little presentation that I've been working on today to share with you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. There we go. So as I said, this is an extended weekly forecast for Monday, October 4th, all the way through Thursday of October 14th. If you guys have any questions about any of this content that I'm about to speak about, make sure that you leave them in the description box below. This is a place for all of us to learn and grow, and I want your questions to get answered. If you have any, if you have any inquiries or if you have any comments or anything like that, feel free to share all of that. Here I've outlined just some of the highlights for the next week and a half, which you guys can see there is a lot going on. So we've got the new moon in Libra that's going to be starting us off here. And just the continuation of this Mercury retrograde period, which gets juicier and juicier as it goes on. We've got Pluto and Saturn both stationing direct. So we are about to see some forward momentum in the weeks to follow. We're going to talk about that and kind of timing and everything regarding that, but lots of forward momentum in all of our lives and collectively in the kind of narrative that's going on in the world right now. We've also got Venus, the planet of love, relationships, and money, entering the optimistic sign of Sagittarius. That's a big shift for us compared to where we've been for the past month. And we have a dynamic called the Cazimi with the planet Mars and the planet Mercury. So we're going to discuss all of these things today. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm sorry if my head over here is blocking some of the writing. That's kind of unavoidable when you do little presentations like this, but this is what we're going to start with today. So we are going to discuss the new moon in Libra. This is going to be taking place this week, this Wednesday, October 6th It will be exact at 7:05 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 13 degrees in the sign of Libra. So basically, we know that new moons are the fresh cycle, the fresh lunation cycle. So it can sometimes be about new beginnings or initiating something new or something brand new being seeded in our lives. Now, Libra is a sign that represents relationships. It doesn't necessarily have to mean love relationships, but more so just one-to-one dynamics that we have with other people, whether that be coworkers or love interests or family members or friends, whatever. It's just those one-on-one dynamics that are really centralized in focus right now in so many ways. And we're going to get into that as we go along. So I just have a couple talking points about this new moon. As you can already see up on the screen, this is actually a really big day that's being highlighted. So first and foremost, this is a really retrograde heavy lunation. And what I mean by this is that first off, every single new moon, in our personal lives, we all were born with a moon sign. For instance, I have moon in Cancer. So as the month progresses, whenever the moon that's moving through the sky returns to Cancer, where I was born, where it was when I was born, I can cast a chart that's called a lunar return for myself. And that'll tell me a lot about the energy of the month, about the maybe different dynamics of change that I'm going to be going through, emotional patterns and different things like that for my personal month ahead. Now, whenever a new moon hits for us collectively, we cast the same kind of chart. So everything that we see on the screen right now and everything we're about to talk about is really going to give us the energy of what we can expect the month ahead in this next lunar cycle. And we have quite the new moon. Like, this is not a usual new moon. It is crazy. So first and foremost, we've got a heavy retrograde lunation cycle. So we have 6 retrograde planets right now. A lot of these planets are transformational outer planets. We've got first and foremost Jupiter, Saturn. We also have Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, and now we have an inner planet, Mercury. Inner planets are going to be more about personal dynamics. It's going to be more about us. And Mercury rules over the mind, thought processes, the intellect, the way we take in information, the way we learn, and the way that we communicate with other people. So as you can see, this is all tied in with these relational dynamics because this new moon and this Mercury retrograde are all taking place in a Venus ruled sign. Venus also ruling over relational dynamics, peace and harmony and the balance that we hope to find within those dynamics with other people. So lots of retrograde planets, which means that the energy isn't really moving forward like it usually would in all of our lives. Things are moving a little bit more slow. Things are very introspective, where we've had really more of an internal focus than more so out into the everyday world, even though we might not really notice it. But I guarantee you, when these planets station and move direct and they start gaining momentum, we're really going to see the pace pick up in all of our lives. So wherever you may feel like you're stuck or stagnant, or you're trying to maybe initiate something or push something forward, maybe you're trying to make something happen and it's just not going anywhere. This is definitely going to change in the weeks to come. So with this specific new moon as well, it is with Mars. And this is kind of what really flavors the energy of what this new moon is all about. Mars is the planet of aggression. It's the planet of confrontation. It's a very warlike planet. It rules things that it has the ability to separate. And being in this relational sign, bringing all this conflict, this aggression, this potential for separation, it's a little worrisome, right? It can be a little bit worrisome, that is for sure. It can bring tension. It can bring a sense of passive aggression, an agitated mind, because it is right here with Mercury, okay? Mars likes to inflame and irritate. So there could be mental agitation. We could feel really angry about something, or maybe something is just bottling up inside of us in regards to some of our personal relationship dynamics that are taking place. And really, this all just depends on where Libra is falling in your specific chart. We might have resentment because maybe we've been over people pleasing, or we haven't been properly speaking our mind. These are a lot of Libran qualities where Libra really just wants to keep the peace and remain diplomatic at all costs without rocking the boat, right? But Mars really wants to take charge and take initiative and is more blunt and straightforward. So we're kind of learning how to temper these energies and whatever dynamics might be coming up, and deciding what's worth fighting and what's not, right? So that we can maybe prevent ourselves from certain circumstances that are more annoying or aggressive, but where we're also still speaking our mind and not just letting things pass over, okay? Because we're trying to people please. Now, another dynamic I wanted to bring up to focus here is the opposition to the planet, or the planetoid Chiron, which is also retrograde. So that brings 7 planetary bodies all in retrograde motion. As you can see, Chiron is over here in the 10th house. I don't have my annotation tools. Let me see if I can grab those so I can show you guys here. Okay. So basically we've got Chiron, the wounded healer, right here. It's opposing this entire cluster of planets over here in the sign of Libra. Now, Chiron, especially when it's transiting and it's making dynamics like this to other planets, it can bring situations, it can bring a situation where maybe we are triggered based off of past wounding that we have, or certain insecurities that we might have, where there is a potential where we can work through of some of these situations that are probably less than comfortable, but there's a potential for healing as well. So this new moon is definitely triggering that type of dynamic where there is a little bit of an opposition. Maybe we are triggering the woundings within other people, or maybe they're doing that to us. So that situation is pretty interesting as well, where we're really being faced to kind of build our self-confidence and learn how to properly stand in our own sense of personal truth. Okay, so there could be self-confidence issues with asserting ourselves properly, or maybe issues with over asserting ourselves, because we must not forget here, you guys, that there is a dynamic between this Mercury retrograde where it's squaring Pluto. And a square is a very challenging communication of tension and conflict with the planet Pluto, which is the planet of intensity. It's the planet of destruction as well as rebirth. It rules over transformation and all aspects of life. So there is this aspect where maybe on one side of the coin, we might not deal with authority figures, and people may try to over dominate us or something like that, but we don't stand up for ourselves. We don't speak our truth. We don't have boundaries, things like that. Or maybe it's the other side of the coin where we're having to look at our dynamics and how we operate within relationships by over dominating other people. Maybe we are control freaks. Maybe we are always taking place in power struggles, and we need to learn how to properly harness this information. What's interesting about this is all these retrograde planets bring this focus to us internally about these types of dynamics. But on this day of the new moon, the lunation will hit, and then later that evening, Pluto stations to go direct. So anything that we've been bottling up inside of us has the potential to now, within weeks to come, as Pluto gains momentum, come bubbling up to the surface. Pluto also rules over things like our own deep truths, but it's also just truth in general. So secrets may be revealed, truths may come up to the surface, and we may not be able to contain those much longer, especially later on in the month when Mars applies to square Pluto as well. So that is the planet of war in a planet in a square with the planet of death and destruction. So I would try to start working on some of these dynamics if they're coming up for you guys already, so that it doesn't come to a boiling volcanic eruption when Mars does hit Pluto later on in the month. So this already is a lot to take on. Okay, and I'm sure with the retrograde period already in motion, we are all starting to feel this. I know I am, and I have a couple stories for you in a couple minutes here. So another dynamic that I do want to bring to focus is because This whole new moon, Mercury retrograde, all the aspects that it's making is taking place in a Venus ruled sign. Venus rules the signs Libra and Taurus. So since this lunation is happening in Libra, it's all of these planets that are communicating with other planets, they have to answer to Venus. And Venus then becomes very important, whatever she's doing in the chart, because this is her house. So she's got house guests and she's not there. So we need to see what's going on with her. And it's interesting because she's at one of these final degrees on the day of the new moon, very close to the anaretic degree. We can pretty much say that she is. The anaretic degree is the 29th degree of every sign, because it's 60 minutes per degree, and she is at 28 degrees, 53 minutes right here. So if you round up, she's basically at the anaretic degree during the time of this new moon, and she does not like to be in Scorpio. But at this point, she has traversed all the way through this intensely emotional sign of Scorpio that's very distrustful, where a lot of issues of jealousy and obsession and compulsion and all of these things come up within relational dynamics that we've been having to deal with. It's kind of the darker, deeper, uglier truths that a lot of us have been looking at, or just dealing with mistrust in general, feeling like we have to be very private. We're containing our emotions and allowing the intensity to bubble up and build inside of us, just adding to the dynamics of everything that's going on inside the chart. And here is a point of mastery at the 29th degree, where it's almost like, okay, we've been through this. We know what the lessons are here, and we're ready to move on, and we're ready to kind of take this into the next chapter. And we're going to discuss Venus's ingress into the sign of Sagittarius within the next couple days to come, which is going to be a really, really nice shift, you guys. This has not been helping any of these other challenging dynamics in the chart because Venus is not happy. In the sign of Scorpio, Venus is in what's called its detriment because it's opposite to Taurus over here, which is its other home sign. So exactly opposite the chart of the house of rulership is the sign of detriment. It's like you are in a foreigner's house. They don't have the food you like. They don't have a comfortable bed that you like. And everything is like opposite. And you just aren't happy. And that's kind of how Venus has been. It wants harmony. It wants balance. It wants pleasure. It wants to just enjoy life through the sensual pleasures and things like that. And it's not really been able to do that because it's focused on deep, dark intensities. Another thing, just before we move on from here, is that with this Mars influence, which is going to be taking place throughout the whole month, as you'll see just in the week and a half to come, we're going to be discussing it a lot. And with the full moon that we'll discuss at the end of the month, Mars is also involved in that, except it's over here in Aries. It'll be in an opposition. So Mars, like I said, it can bring health issues. It can bring inflammation and any type of anger issue, aggression, confrontation. Those things that boil up inside of us, we're not able to properly express them, can create illness. It can create disharmony and disease within the body. So we do want to be careful that we're not burning ourselves out. We're not overdoing it. We're not trying to push something forward right now. And that is going to be key, you guys. Sometimes after a new moon, once we start building to that waxing crescent phase after the new moon, we could usually start initiating on whatever it was we were intending. But at this point, we have so many retrograde planets with no really momentum backing any of our initiations. We really need to just temper the drive that we might have to make something happen right now. And that's probably what Mars is making us feel like. So just try to temper it. And what I can suggest here is if you're not able to really rest and retreat because of that inflamed and aggressive, energetic Mars energy, do Martian things, exercise, sweat, get your heart rate going, do yoga, because especially since Mars is in an artful sign of Libra, it like maybe bodily movements that are very expressive and beautiful, like taekwondo or martial arts or yoga or dance or anything like that are going to be great ways of kind of dealing with this energy where you can move that martial energy out of the body instead of having it cause illness or end you up in bed, right? So there is a lot going on here right now. Luckily, we do have a really harmonious influence that's kind of mitigating a lot of this. We've got Mercury connecting to Jupiter over here, which adds an air of optimism, where even though we have a lot of these challenges, we feel very driven and optimistic. And this is going to be an energy that lasts us for the couple next weeks to come, as Mercury retrogrades back and forth kind of over this placement. And it'll just go back over it one more time in about 2 weeks, I believe. I'd have to check, but it's kind of helping us to see the bigger picture and stay optimistic amongst any of the challenges we might be coming across. So basically, look out for power struggles, look out for just relationship challenges in general, challenges with money, challenges in the workplace. There's a lot of different ways that this could play out. I'm already starting to feel the agitation in my workplace. At work, we have a lot of new hires, and it's just really challenging to get people trained and see that like the vibe isn't there with some people, and it's not what we're used to in our job, like with certain people. And there's just, I can feel it already. There's a lot of like internal aggression bubbling up, and just, it's in the air, the high energy. That's kind of like a volcano just waiting to erupt. And it's like, oh, great. I can't wait to see how all this plays out, you know, and I know the astrology, so I just know exactly like where this could lead. And me trying to stay in the dynamic and think to myself, how do I want to handle this situation? How do I temper my own aggression? And is it worth it? Is it worth it to really fight for this? You know what I mean? And then also with this retrograde, I have this retrograde in my fourth house. And I was just having conversations with my dad today about our move that we're about to make across the country in a few months. And it was just so frustrating. And I felt stuck, and I felt just frustrated because we're talking about how expensive it is to rent like those pods and like U-Hauls and things like that. I'm just wondering how this is all going to work out, you know? So I can already see the frustrations building with certain dynamics. I would love to hear your guys' stories if you would be interested in leaving me any information below. And we can kind of share with each other. But this is Wednesday, October 6th. This is just one day, you guys. This is a pretty big deal. So I wrote a couple just simple things here as well for this Pluto stationing direct. Just know this, as it stations direct, it's going to be moving very slow. Pluto is a really slow planet. So with that said, it won't move not even 1 minute. As you can see, Pluto over here is at 24. Oops, I got to clear this so we can see. Pluto is at 24 degrees and 19 minutes. It will not reach 20 minutes of a degree. So it won't move 1 minute of a degree until October 17th. So it's going to be moving really slow. So this forward progress that I speak of that's coming, just be patient, you guys, because it is going to take time. We are kind of in a standstill this month. And that is where a lot of the frustrations lie, because we want things to move forward so badly, and it's not happening at that Marshall speed as we would like it, right? So with this Pluto retrograde, just a couple more thoughts. You may be thinking or planning, or you may have been over the past few months since April 26th, when Pluto first stationed retrograde, how you wanted to maybe transform your life in some way. And you may have been like ruminating on it for a really long time and planning. Well, now once Pluto moves forward, this is going to be the time to take action on those things. But obviously, I would say moving into November is going to be more realistic for the taking action aspect. This is when truths could be bubbling up to the surface and revealed. Secrets could be revealed. Power struggles brought to your attention. Internal focus on obsession and jealousy. These different types of tendencies that may be going on in some of your relational dynamics. And just a lot of transformation that you may begin to notice that's happened with you on an internal basis. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. I think we spent quite enough time on that one. So on Thursday, October 7th at 7:20 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Venus will be making its ingress into the sign of Sagittarius and out of deep, emotionally cathartic and intense Scorpio. So like I said before, this is actually going to be a very positive change because Sagittarius is a very optimistic, fun-loving, adventurous sign where it loves to learn through its experiences in life, which means it's going to be time for us to stop distrusting and maybe start learning and diving into our experiences and some fun within relational dynamics and not being so private, maybe being a little bit more open and honest and truthful. These are all very Sagittarian themes within relational dynamics. And this is going to be adding, I think, to the storyline of this whole Mercury retrograde and the lessons and everything that we're supposed to be integrating and learning. I was just learning about more about combust planets, and we have combust planets right now. Mercury over here, that's also in retrograde, as well as Mars are both combust. And what that means is that both of these planets are within 8 degrees of the sun. And when a planet is within 8 degrees of the sun, it's said to be burned up by the sun's rays. And it's almost as if the sun swallows and engulfs the planet. But obviously this sounds like a horrible thing, right? Because the planet does lose a lot of its abilities. It isn't able to see things properly. It's not able to operate properly or act on its own volition. And it kind of blinds the planet's abilities somewhat. But on the other hand, this is actually a very clarifying and rejuvenating process for these planets. So Mars, for instance, when it conjuncts the sun, it starts a brand new cycle. And sometimes Mercury does too. And it's said the sun, in philosophically, the sun represents the one, the whole, divinity, spirit, source, right? So basically its rays that are said to be burning up the planet are actually purifying the planet. So these planets and everything that they represent are undergoing a purification process, which can be challenging, right? So just like it said that the sun engulfs, like swallows the planet, it has to digest it too, right? So we as well have to digest some of these lessons that we have undergone over the past 2-year cycles, specifically with Mars. These are, dynamics related to aggression, confrontation within relationship dynamics, having to find what we value, what's fair to us, what's just, how we value ourselves and stand up for what we believe in our own rights and speak our truth, right? All of those types of things are definitely coming to the forefront, and we're kind of having to assimilate, digest, and integrate some of these lessons that are taking place, that are coming up. So basically, I think we're on to the next digestion process with Venus entering Sagittarius, where we're actually open to learning and integrating and sharing these experiences with other people. It's a totally different energy, like I said, than Scorpio. So, Venus in Scorpio has really complicated relational dynamics. It's also complicated issues with money because it rules over finances and things like that. So we may begin to notice with this Venus in Sagittarius transit that romantic and interpersonal relationships shift from intense to a little bit more fun and optimistic from here on out, even though they're still going to be fairly intense with that square to Pluto. And again, we've got the Mars square to Pluto coming up, the Sun square to Pluto coming up. And when Mercury moves forward, it will also hit Pluto. So I wouldn't say that's going to be the overall energy, but at least it will help to lighten the load just a little bit. There could potentially also be a strong desire here with the Sagittarius energy for freedom and growth and expansion and adventure. So this could really help us to broaden our belief systems and our life philosophies and our perspectives about our life, our relationships in the world, how we want to move forward. And that can help shift us out of any stagnant situations that we may have been with other people, right? So just a shift in our belief systems. That's another Sagittarius type of thing. Maybe it might help us to be a little bit more blunt and, like I said, open and truthful. So you just want to watch out that you're not being a little bit too blunt and aggressive, because Sagittarius is also very fiery. And Mercury retrograde periods are known for miscommunications among relationships. So just be careful for using hurtful words or being a little bit too straightforward and blunt during this time period too. But I think we're going to leave that one at that and move on to our next dynamic here. So this is the beginning of the cazimis that I was telling you about. We've got this Mercury and Mars cazimi. So we already talked about combust planets and how they're burned up by the sun's rays. They're really unable to kind of operate in their own natural, individualized ways, and the sun is kind of running the show. Well, in the middle of this combustion, when the planets all come within 15 minutes of each other. And it really matters what astrologer you talk to in regards to this. One of my teachers has taught me that they should be within 15 minutes of the sun. Another teacher of mine said if they're all at the same degree, like you see right here, 16 degrees, they're basically in a cazimi. And that's what he would consider. So I'm just trying to learn from my own life experiences, which one resonates more with me. And I'm still kind of working on that right now, doing the research. But as you can see, we've got the sun, we've got Mercury, and we've got Mars, and they are all within that 16th degree of Libra. And this is a cazimi, and this is what said that the sun, the king, these planets are lifted up in high esteem and said to be seated right next to the throne of the king and treated just like the king. So basically, for this moment in time, whatever this little time period is, I would say this is Saturday, October 9th. I think it was the day before that Mars was actually in its cazimi. But if you want to consider it within the same degree, like I am right now, we're going to go ahead and say this is like October 8th and 9th, that this can be considered. Now, with the Mercury cazimi, more so on the 9th, okay? I would say 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. with this chart specifically 3:21 p.m. being the peak. Now, what's interesting here is that with Mercury, we could have some interesting revelations. We could understand something that we may have been struggling with. Something may come to our mind. We might have some big grand idea, or we may have some big broader perspective where we're able to kind of understand things on a deeper level. Mars here rules our actions and our drive, our motivations. So we might begin to understand why we have been doing something that we've been doing, or maybe giving us a better idea of what actions we need to take moving forward in order to keep going on this path and trajectory that we're headed on. Interesting enough, this at the same exact time, the ruler of this whole dynamic, Venus, because these planets are all in Libra, Venus is over here. And as you can see, there's a little stellium of planets and points over here too. We've got Venus with the moon and the south node. So this is an interesting dynamic here too, where potentially the focus could be on expanding our belief systems, or realizing that maybe a way that we were once believing or operating from our own set of belief systems, our own set of personal morals and ethics, wasn't really serving us. Maybe it's something that's outdated or from the past that we really need to let go of, because the south node is there, and it's usually a point of letting go and release. It's opposing the north node. So in order for us to truly move forward in the ways that we want to, in terms of our karmic destiny unfolding, we need to let something go. There's something we need to release. Could be our beliefs about money. It could be our beliefs about relationship dynamics. Could be our beliefs about somebody in particular. It could have something to do with our past wounding, our insecurities, the way that we value ourselves. It's just really going to be unique for each and every one of us. And this is just kind of a roadmap for you to maybe decipher how this is specifically affecting you. But this is a really big day right here when we could potentially have some big realizations. So just keep an eye out for that, because I think self-awareness is key here. If you don't have the eyes to look for it, you could potentially miss this big opportunity to get a little bit of insight on what you need to do moving forward, right? So I'm going to go ahead and leave that dynamic right there, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the next day, because we still have quite a bit to talk about here. Okay, so we're going to move to Sunday of October 10th. And as we can see here, Saturn is going to be stationing direct. So we have another planet that's going to be moving forward. And just the same, you guys see the retrograde, the little RX that we see right here, like with Pluto, it's not here anymore. So right at 10:17 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on October 10th, Saturn will be stationing direct. Now, when a planet stations, it comes to a standstill. And it's a optical illusion, but when that happens, it's said to intensify and the energy is much more highly concentrated. So you might even want to watch for something, maybe some type of shift or something on this day. But in order for momentum to really be gained, we are going to have to wait a little bit because Saturn is not as slow as Pluto, but it is still a slower moving planet. So in regards to that, it's going to take it until October 15th just to move 1 minute, right? But once it starts gaining momentum, it'll be a little bit quicker. And then eventually it'll get to 7 degrees, which is 7 minutes away from this degree point that it's at. It will get to 7 degrees, I believe. I guess I didn't write that down. Sorry. Later in the month. But it's going to take it a little bit to get there. So why I'm even saying that is because we need to just have patience that it's going to take a little while for things to start moving forward collectively and in our own personal lives and for everything to gain momentum because we still got Mercury and Jupiter and all these other planets in retrograde, which we will talk about in next week's forecast. The Jupiter and Mercury will be moving direct as well, which will be really exciting because then we've got 4 key players in this whole dynamic moving forward. So this really brings our Aquarius aspect of our charts into focus here. Now, Saturn rules over structures of our lives, the things that bring us stability. It rules over things that are limiting and restricting. It is institutions. It rules over laws and rules, authority figures and our relationships to them. It can have a lot to do with our career and our jobs and things like that. Saturn is also the planet of karma. So it's reap what you sow type of energy, right? Now, one thing that's interesting about Saturn retrograde is it kind of slows down all of these dynamics in our outer life and brings the focus more inward. So we may have experienced a shift back on about May 22nd, around that time period when Saturn did station retrograde. We've really been, maybe we had a shift in responsibility or something like that. And we were starting to think, okay, this is a lot. And we were having to kind of internally integrate all of the changes that we were taking on. And now that Saturn is stationing, we've assimilated and integrated all of that. And we're kind of seeing where we're at with all of it, right? So it's another shift of dynamic. We just went through a period of inner observation and hard work on things like our own fears, our own personal limitations, and our own sense of discipline internally. Hard work and things like that are ruled by Saturn. Our ability to create stability in our own lives. So now we receive outwardly expressed situations where we can put everything that we've learned internally to the test, right? So it also, like I said, it's rules over karma. So if you haven't been doing the inner work with Saturn, you'll be able to see that now as well, which is, you're going to have to assess where you're at with that. But basically, and one interesting thing that I did want to bring up here is back in May, when Saturn stationed retrograde, as well as Jupiter had moved into Pisces. I think that with those two dynamics, we saw the lessening of a lot of the COVID restrictions. So Saturn was retrograde. It was almost like we were getting a little bit of a break on the limitations and restrictions in our external environment. And Jupiter was helping to kind of lift the weight off of all of our shoulders and make us feel a little bit more free again, right? So now Jupiter is back in Aquarius and Saturn is about to move forward once again. And I think that there is definitely a potential where moving forward from this point, we may begin to see some more restrictions or some more limitations that could potentially be brought forth. So we'll just kind of have to see how that plays itself out as well. There are certainly going to be some shifting dynamics. I don't think at all that all of it is going to be negative, but it is just one thing that I kind of was thinking about a little bit, right? So just interesting dynamic to kind of bring to the forefront. So if you just want to be a little bit more introspective, go back to May, think about near the end of May, what was really shifting and changing, especially related to the Saturnian areas of your chart, Aquarius and Capricorn. What do those houses rule? What do they represent? You can do a Google search. If it's your 8th and 9th house, Google what's the 8th and 9th house represent? And you will learn some of these Saturnian things. So for instance, if it was in your 9th house, there may have been an internal focus on what it is that you believe in. Your beliefs, your own personal belief systems about spirituality, about the world at large, about religion, maybe realigning, maybe realizing what you no longer believe in and having like shifts in that sense, maybe realizing your own personal limitations within your belief systems and how they're limiting and holding you back. And now that Saturn is moving forward, it's really going to help you to implement all of these new changes and shifts in perspective that you may have had. So, you know, there's just certain ways that a lot of these things could play out. Maybe if it's in your 2nd house, it could be internal revelations about the different ways in which you needed to restructure your relationship with your money and finances and things like that. And now is going to be the time when you put those things in place, and everything that you've learned, you can kind of apply, right? And the external world. So very interesting dynamics. I'm interested to see how it all plays out for all of you, and as well as in my own life. So I guess we'll have to see, right? Now, I don't have the chart for this up on the screen, but on Wednesday, October 13th, it's really rounding out our week. We are going to have Venus, which is right here. It's going to be connecting in what's called a sextile over here to Saturn. So I really do like this ending the week. I don't think that this is bad at all. A sextile is actually an aspect of harmony and ease. It's something that we actually have to put in a little bit work to get that harmony and balance and ease. But this could really bring in some insight as it pertains to our financial stability and financial structures, or that stability and structure within our relational dynamics. So what we might need in order to make these things work, there may be some type of opportunity that comes in that will help us find more stability and structure, help us with our discipline and our responsibilities so that we flow more easily with some of these things, and we can make those changes that really need to be made, right? Or whatever needs to be let go of with this South Node here too. So I think that this week really does end nicely, even though there's quite a bit of intensity and quite a bit of things going on. Now, just a little tool for you guys, if you want to look at your own personal chart for the next week and a half, even the next couple weeks to come, the big areas of focus in all of our charts are going to be the Libra house. This is the glyph for Libra. So you want to look on the edge of your chart and see where that house is, what the number of that house is. The Capricorn area of your chart, that's what the glyph looks like for that, as well as the Aquarius area of your chart. And then you can just do a quick Google search and see what these houses represent. And those are some of the areas of life and the topics and themes that are going to be very prevalent for you in the next coming weeks. Now, if you'd like me to make a document on what the different houses represent and things like that, I'd be happy to create some freebie for you guys like that. If it would be helpful, if you watch my videos and you'd like something to follow along with, just let me know in the comments box below. I would be more than happy to do something like that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen right there. I hope that this was super helpful for you guys. If you benefited at all from this content, please make sure to tap that like button below. Leave me a comment. I would love to hear some of your personal stories and just know how these energies are resonating with you guys. Thank you again for showing up and watching yet another video. And if you are new here and you enjoyed the content, please make sure to tap subscribe, as well as the little bell icon next to the subscribe button, so that you'll be notified of all the videos that I post and you will not miss an update. I promise you that. Head on over to my Instagram page, Yelena Crawford Astrology. Like I said today, I just posted some interesting information, how to decode what the energy of your year is going to be this year and next year, and any of the past, if you want to make sense of some of your past, using numerology. So Yelena Crawford Astrology, make sure to add me on Instagram for future content. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much. Best of luck with this energy this week. Peace and namaste, everybody. Love you guys. Bye.